Okay. Well,
So, Linus, you
Ace,
said
do you want to continue? Sorry.
like,
Okay. Go on.
well, I was asking because you said logic wasn't objective. What does that mean?
Laws of what?
Logic are not objective. What does that mean to you?
When you say laws of, wait, did you say laws of logic or physics?
Logic. No, logic.
So when you say laws of logic are objective, what that means to me is that the universe, for example, particles, atoms, they're literally following the logic that we are discovering. Um, like literally, like for example, if we
So
could have
do you think that logic is like out in the world, or is that how you
I
think that
think
people are
so.
referring to logic as
So I
being
think
objective?
logic is a approximation of reality, which makes sense. So, for example, if you think about it in this way, so we know that there are subatomic particles which make up atomic particles, which make up larger stuff, and
Yeah,
we know that at
again, that's a
some.
non sequitur, man.
How is it a non sequitur?
Because we can't observe subatomic particles, we only observe the effects of it.
Do you agree with quantum physics, or
What do you mean agree with quantum physics? Quantum physics is a mathematical theorem to try to hypothesize, to come up with a hypothesis to explain the motion or the change that we see from the effects of quanta. It's a mathematical heuristic that we use to
wait?
try to
So I'm
describe
trying
them.
to.
I mean, that's why
Wait, what are you
I
asking
try to
me?
gently kind of introduce you to like the paradigm, right? But anyways, this
Wait, what are you
question is kind
trying
of
to ask
boring.
me?
Questioning whether or not the laws of logic are objective or not is kind of a boring question because like that's not an actual serious philosophical position. But having said that, Mr. Yod, okay, I don't want to press you too hard, but after watching Bubba's video, I was kind of like left with a residual question that is um are when you were talking to Bubba, you claimed that the words that you speak are infallibly true. What did you mean by this?
What, me?
Yeah.
Well, what words did I speak?
You said that your words are infallibly true, whereas his was
It,
not.
it would depend
And
on
so you kept
it would depend on the words. Like obviously there would be certain things that would be in context there. I'm not saying everything I say is true, but if I said something that's infallibly true, it must have been infallibly true.
okay, so then how in that context, right? I can ask you generally, or I can ask you specifically in your conversation with Bubba. I feel like maybe I do you better justice if I spoke in the context of in your conversation with Bubba. Um, what were you saying that was infallibly true that led you to believe that Bubba was lying, or
Well, it's because he kept on saying things.
obligated him to swear on his mother?
Because he would say things like he agrees with everything I'm saying, and everything I'm saying is true, but he doesn't agree with my position. He's not Christian. He doesn't affirm all those things, which I think is dishonest. To say that yes, no, everything you're saying is true. Now he wants me to prove my position or justify it. That's just a dishonest way to avoid having to defend what you believe by saying, no, I already agree with everything you say. Now prove it. That's a very dishonest way to operate.
Yes, I said as you were
Oh shit,
rage
Bubba's
quitting.
here.
Oh yeah, Abysmal. I didn't even know that you saw that video. I said, as a non-believer in Jesus, you should assume that everything I say is run by the spirit of Satan. Therefore, I am lying about everything that I'm saying. So, I want to learn about Jesus. I said that over and over and over again, but he wanted to.
Right.
But Face loves his script more than he loves Jesus.
Okay, so when you say that, so should I assume you're lying when you say you want to believe in Jesus?
Yes, because I'm run by Satan.
Right. Okay, so why should I trust you then? If you're telling me that I should think you're lying, why should I trust you?
Because I just want to learn about Jesus, sir.
But you've just told me not to trust you, bro.
Because everything that you should assume about me is that I am run by Satan and that everything I say is a
Bro,
lie.
Bro, you've come up to me and gone, listen, nice to meet you. Everything I can say is a complete lie. Trust me. Right? It's like, how am I supposed to respond to that?
It's like, yeah, Bisma, I don't want to take up your conversation.
No, that's fine. That's a great rejoinder because
Absolutely
that's kind of
ridiculous.
like a related question to what I was trying to ask, Face of Yod. Are you saying that we should assume that what everybody says is true?
No.
And are you basing that on like the infallible character of your own words? Or is that only
Neither.
context specific?
It's a
And if
false
so, in which context
trichotomy.
are words infallibly true?
Yeah, it's a false trichotomy.
What is it False
It means that
trichotomy? What is this?
it means the three options that you presented are not like mutually exclusive or completely exhaustive.
Mutually exclusive only applies to a dichotomy, sir.
Okay, well, tri-exclusive or whatever you want to call it.
So then what
Or
form of logic, right, do we have that explains that I guess is a consideration between anything more than a set of two alternatives?
sorry, say that again.
So then what formal rule of logic applies to a certain consideration of more than two alternatives? Because
Mm,
those wouldn't be the laws of logic that I'm familiar with.
as far as I'm concerned, everything must conform to the laws of logic. Anything that you're going to consider.
No, I understand, but like I
Yeah.
don't see it as trichotomous. I only see it as dichotomous laws of logic.
You gave three options. You said face. It's either A,
No.
B, or C.
No, I didn't give you a C. What I said was that if it's the case, right, that you believe that your words are there's some of the words that you speak, I'm trying to be conservative, are infallibly true in a specific context, right? How is it that you assume that other people also have infallible context by which they speak the words that they speak?
What? I'm not necessarily imposing that. They either have an infallible context or they don't. If they
So then, how
don't,
do you determine if someone is trustworthy enough to take their words as true?
I suppose it would depend on the claim. Like, give me an example. Like,
It depends on
someone.
the context. If it depends on the context, then by which criterion are you establishing that context?
So like obviously, if someone gives me X and not X, like Bubba, if they say, "Look, I agree with everything you say,"
X not
and
X.
yeah, if they give me a contradiction, no, I'm not going to trust them. If they tell me to my face, they're not to be trusted. I don't take them as trustworthy, even if they're being honest.
How is admission that someone doesn't know Jesus a logical contradiction?
No, that's not. I never said that. I'm not saying that.
The heck is
But that was his claim.
He made more claims than that, bro. If that was a single claim. If he just said, "I don't know who Christ is," then I'd probably just point him to like a Wikipedia page. But when he says a whole bunch of stuff, you know what I mean? That I want to know him. I want to believe. Blah blah blah. I believe everything that you're saying. You're right about everything. I'm wrong about everything. That's obviously not honest, bro.
So you believe that everything Bubba was saying was falsifiable. Therefore, everything that
No.
he said wasn't true.
No, not everything.
So then, if you were to steel man Bubba's position, then what would you find, given the context, what would you find of what he said was unfalsifiable? Was there anything unfalsifiable according to your worldview?
I mean, well, falsifiability is more to do with science and stuff like that. But if you're talking about if someone gives me
No. Okay, well then, we'll go back to the words of infallibility. Was there anything that, if you were to steel man his position, is there anything that Bubba said that you would have found to be an infallible statement?
I mean, I didn't really memorize the conversation. I have a lot of conversations, but I can't remember. I can't remember if he said anything infallible. I'm not sure.
Okay, well, I'm actually curious, Face. Do you want to go back to your very first point that you usually use at the start? If you want to talk about that anyway.
I don't really have a usual starting point. I don't have a script where there's like a first question that I have to ask to get off of the ground.
No, when you say, do you grant that everything must be based upon some fundamental thing?
Well, let me ask you. Okay.
Along those lines.
Well, do you agree that there are things which are not fundamental?
Can you clarify what you mean by that?
So things that have some kind of dependency relation to something, else.
So you're asking me if I believe. So do you believe that there are things which have no dependencies?
No. Things which are non-fundamental, which means that they have dependencies to things which are not themselves.
Yeah, I agree with that.
Right. Okay. So the things which are not fundamental, that set, they're not going to be able to self-ground themselves. Otherwise, they would be fundamental, right?
Yes.
Okay. So the set of all non-fundamentals necessarily requires the fundamental to ground it.
Yes, this. Yeah, that makes sense.
Right. So the thing that is fundamental is necessary, and it's going to be unconditionally non-dependent, non-contingent, and non-derivative, securing the entire causal nexus of the set of contingent dependent derivatives within the non-fundamental set.
Say that again.
So the set of non-fundamentals necessarily will depend on that which is fundamental, which will be unconditionally non-dependent, non-contingent, and non-derivative, securing the entire causal nexus of the set of non-fundamentals.
Non-conditionally. What was it?
Unconditionally non-dependent, non-contingent, and non-derivative.
Independent, and what?
Yeah, unconditionally non-dependent, non-contingent, and non-derivative.
Okay, that's a mouthful. We can go through this.
I'm dumbing it down. I'm dumbing it down.
All
You're
right, dude,
done.
calm down.
Felonious, you kind of fell into the precept again.
What's the pre-sub? Tell me.
I mean, you admitted that, you know, everything that you found intelligible basically falls, you know, under some rule of contingency.
I don't have a problem with that. But also, I find it weird when you say that Newtonian physics doesn't break down in other scales, but I don't want to get into that. I just want to say I find it very weird because
I
It's
think-
not that it
Mhm.
breaks down. It's insufficient to explain the effects, the observable effects at the
so
level of quanta.
it becomes, I mean, so it breaks down then. So it's not usable at that level, which means it breaks down.
I mean, no, that doesn't mean that it's not usable because we actually don't have like a ready-made like heuristic tool to begin with. So it's kind of
So
like a mischaracterization to say that, oh well, it breaks down because of what? We have an alternative that like we have a, you know, another working alternative. The reality is we
because it
actually
doesn't
don't.
explain it well.
Yeah, but
So for
we don't have a
example,
other working alternative. The closest we've gotten is quote unquote string theory, but that's only if we, you know, make our modeling or estimations within de Sitter or anti-de Sitter
y-
space rather than de Sitter space. Like string
yeah,
theory doesn't
so
explain anything in like real space. You know what I mean?
yeah, that's fine. That's fine. But we don't have to talk about quantum physics. We can talk about Einstein's theory of relativity. So Newtonian physics, sometimes we use Einstein's formulas instead of Newtonian formulas because they work better.
Well, modified Newtonian dynamics actually does.
So I'm saying sometimes we change up the laws. Anyway, anyway, we don't have to get into this, but
I
I'm
mean,
just trying to
for the
say that's
majority
why I
for the
think.
majority of the practical sciences, for the majority of the practical
Mhm.
sciences, like the standard model is still like very useful,
Yeah, it's
pretty
pretty
accurate.
useful. I'm not denying that, but I'm saying just by the virtue of the fact.
It's pretty accurate, I should say.
Yeah, I
Right?
agree with that, but I'm just saying, just by the virtue of the fact that it can't literally explain everything, is showing to us that it's an
Yeah,
approximation and
but
not a
I mean
literal
that would
law.
obviously be the case. You know, that would kind of be more of a reflection of like the things that it would condition rather the things that we could say that logic could be applied to, right? So I'll put it to you like this, right? Like I think when like scientific realists are talking about like the, you know, inductive problem of logic, like what they're, you know, it depends on like which kind of like school of philosophy you want to really do it, but um Hegel really makes a good case, right? Like the laws of logic are objective in the sense that like they're objective, you know, it's an objective thesis about like the way our minds work, right? And the fact that we're able to even heuristically describe through mathematics or through logic, like the phenomenon of nature around us, demonstrates that even though, um, like nature itself presents itself to us in a way that we can, I guess, like describe it logically, would
Uh-huh.
only show that what we're able to perceive about the world to ourselves, right, only pertains to our own heuristic of logic. But this isn't to
Uh-huh.
preclude that there's some logic about nature, right, that does presents itself to us in that way.
Um, I suppose that's why I say it's an approximation, right?
I don't think it's an approximation. It could just what you're referring to. It could just be like a limitation of like the human mind.
It
Are you guys
could
saying
be,
that?
but I
Are
think it
you guys
makes
saying?
more. Wait, no, let me speak.
Sorry,
I
go
think
ahead.
it makes more sense that it's an approximation because we keep finding new laws in science and mathematics to better describe reality. So it seems like we're approximating reality, but we seem to be getting better at our approximations at each step. So we are acquiring more and more knowledge, even though we are not acquiring perfect knowledge. It's very useful knowledge, and it's getting better and better.
Are you guys saying though that X is only approximately X?
He's trying to maintain
No.
that. I'm not.
No, I'm not saying
Oh.
that, but you can't. I'm saying our model of X, when X is something in the real world, not like a mathematical concept. Our model of it is an approximation of it. But yeah. Anyway, you were
Telanos, what's your
saying
background? Are you in mathematics? Are you in a
I'm
science-related
studying
field?
I'm studying computer science and mathematics. I'm not. I'll admit I'm not very philosophy tuned in the sense of I don't really follow classical philosophy that much. But I don't think that undermines any of my arguments or stuff like that. But anyway, so getting back to the set. Okay, dude, cool. So getting back to the set of non-fundamentals that necessarily depend on that which is dependent and non-conditionally undependent, contingent and non-derivative.
Mhm.
So yes, so all members of this set will require grounding.
Hmm. So
And the set
necessarily,
itself.
yeah.
Mhm.
So necessarily,
set-
there is a fundamental, unconditionally non-dependent, groundable being. Then, right? That's the position that we agree on.
Yeah.
Right. Okay. And the only way that we could know that is if the fundamental allowed us to know that. Is that correct?
So the only way we could know this was if the fundamental let us know it. Yeah, that follows.
So the fundamental is revelatory.
Yes.
Okay. So you believe in an eternal, necessary, unconditionally non-dependent, non-contingent, non-dependent, groundable being, which is revelatory, which grants justified true beliefs to humans, such that they know things to be true infallibly and emphatically, without ontological or epistemic redaction or reification. Is that correct?
That's too much stuff for me to agree on. Wait.
Dude, I'm dumbing it down.
You're not dumbing it down, dude. You gave me like 20 fucking different criteria.
Okay, you're done. You're done.
The problem that I have an issue with, the only problem I have a problem with faceofyoh is justified, infallible, or infallibly justified true belief. How do you explain that? How do you assume that that's the case?
Yeah.
How does
If you
God
have,
grant this?
well, look, if you have a justified true belief, could it be a false belief?
If one does not receive it correctly, I mean, that's the thing. Does God justify epistemological truths to you? Is that what's going on?
Dude, do you want to answer my question or not?
What was the question again?
It's if you have a justified true belief, could it be a false belief?
If one has a justified true belief, well, that assumes that one already has justified true belief.
Has anyone ever had a true belief?
Okay, well, I mean, that's kind of why I was asking you, right? Under what context, right, can you identify infallible statements?
I mean, if it's impossible for something to be false, then it's true.
If it's impossible for something to be false. So
Yeah.
that doesn't seem to be like any formal argument for the truth, wouldn't you say?
So the statement under in a binary system of logic, under classical logic, something is either true.
Okay.
Yeah, so under binary logic, classical laws, something is either true or not. That statement can't be false. That's not a false statement. You know what I mean? It's a conditional. It's either something either is or it's not. Unless you want to posit it could be both and neither. You know?
It either is or not. So you're just appealing to like law of non-contradiction. So
I'm
then,
staying. I'm staying
what-
under binary logic. Yeah, I'm under binary logic. Things are binary, which I mean I don't think is contentious. You know.
do you believe that the only knowable propositions are true propositions?
Yeah, because like to know a proposition means it's justified, true, and believed. So it
Okay,
couldn't
so
be
then that's the
false.
part where you're losing me, because I don't actually hold that position myself.
Dude, are you telling me that a justified true belief could be a false belief?
No, hold on. Right, but you're reading
Or
that
not.
assumption into it.
Or
That
not.
doesn't mean that it's a justified true belief.
Okay, you're done.
No. I mean, well, let's slow this down, because again, I'm a classical theorist, so I actually do want to like actually understand like kind of like your working thesis.
Could a true
Because
belief
I
be
don't
not?
believe that. I mean, for
Could a
me,
true
I
belief
don't believe
be
that
not
the
true?
only propositions are true propositions. I
No.
believe that propositions can have mistakes or inaccurate,
Like a
and
proposition
most of the
either
time
obtains
they
or not.
are.
A truth app statement.
How is it that you assume that all propositions, all knowable propositions, are fundamentally true? How do you know this?
It's because when you say knowable, it includes justified true belief, because knowable means that it's justified, true, and believed. So if it's justified, true, and believed, it has to be true. So it couldn't be false. That's why.
So then, again, what is your epistemological framework or criterion by which you establish justified true belief or infallibility?
Yeah, so something is like the same as you last time you asked. It's infallibly true if it's impossible for it to be false. And I gave you an example.
I mean, earlier you said that God grants justified true beliefs. Is that correct?
You're a
Yeah,
mother
so like
joke, you
Okay.
motherfucker.
So how
in a world where
can you explain me
Mother
your
joke.
criterion?
Don't
So
forget talk to me, you motherfucker.
In what ways does, for example, in what ways does Jesus provide justified true belief?
well, any and all means. Like the entire causal nexus would be revelatory of God
The
in a world where
entire
God is.
causal nexus.
Yeah, because nothing could exist apart from God's sovereign decree. In a world where God is, if you're a theist, you would have to agree God would be the ultimate precondition for the entire set. So you wouldn't have any knowledge
you're
apart from.
evading the question though. So then, how do you that still doesn't account. You still haven't given account for your criteria for establishing justified true belief.
No, I did. I gave it twice.
Well, no. You're just appealing to some generalized causal nexus, right?
No. I
So
get
it
no.
just
If
sounds
something's
like
impossible,
you're just shifting the goalpost, Face.
No, I'm
Face,
not. No.
JTB isn't a checklist for acquiring knowledge, Face. JTB is a definition of knowledge, right?
Yeah.
So there's a difference between giving a justification and being justified, right? And I think
Right.
Abismo, he can correct me if I'm wrong, he's asking you to do the first part, not the second part.
Right. Is that what you're asking? You're asking me like when would
Because
someone
I can
be
agree with
justified?
your conclusions, but my epistemological framework is going to be different from the way I'm going to agree with those conclusions.
I mean, as a theist, would you grant that God would be the grounds of all ontology and epistemology?
I wouldn't assume it axiomatically.
I'm just asking, would you accept, or like, would a theist accept that God would be the precondition of all ontology and all epistemology?
Again, I think I've answered you. I'm not going to take that as axiomatic.
I'm not forcing it on you. I'm just saying, like, would some abstract person out there who's a theist hold that because God is ultimate, that he would be the precondition of everything which is not ultimate?
That's a nonsensical statement.
Dude, something is either ultimate or not. If you are non-ultimate, then you're non-ultimate, and you would be outside that which is ultimate. Okay,
So
you
then
couldn't be
how
both.
is it that you assume that proposition to be the case?
It's either X or not. So if we're going to be logical,
Yeah, but
okay,
how can you do that without assuming it's axiomatic, the law of non-contradiction in that case? So then your appeal is to the formal laws of logic and not the quote unquote thesis about God as fundamental to our, as your axiom, right? Like in my opinion, I think you're just equivocating between the two. You're equivocating between quote unquote the formal laws of logic and the whole causal nexus that grounds or you find foundational to it, without explaining how you assume that is to be the
like
case.
Abismo. Are you just sort of kind of taking contention with whatever I say, or is there a very specific thing which you would like me to prove, which I could lay
Well,
out for you.
when you ask the question, right? Like, do you assume that it's the case? Well, all I can say is, I mean, from my worldview, we don't take it as axiomatic, right?
I didn't ask you that.
But yes, you did when you're asking,
No.
does one assume that the quote
No.
unquote, causal nexus is the foundation for all, propositional truth?
No.
And I was like,
No.
no, I don't
No.
believe that.
I didn't ask you that.
I don't even well, how is it that you find it justifiable to assume that that is the case?
What's the thing that you want me to try and justify again? What you want me to justify?
Assuming that the causal nexus is axiomatic to the formal laws of logic.
That's my claim. I've never claimed that.
That is your claim. It's your
Okay, so
claim when you ask other
no.
people whether or not that is their claim or not, right? Because
bro, man.
what you're assuming is that it's justified for you, but
How
it's not
about-
justified for other people.
How about quote me verbatim, just on something that you know that I would agree with?
Why are you appealing to me, my position? No one's obligated to understand your position for you, Yod.
I don't think that you understand a single thing I've said. I don't even think we're on the same universe, really.
That might be true.
So
I
are
don't
you
think
just being
anyone
a
understands.
universal skeptic now?
Bro, I know you exist. You're a cool guy, but I just don't think that you're communicating.
So then
properly
how
with
is
me.
it, by what criterion, right, are you establishing that the words as you understand your own words to be more infallible than mine?
I suppose it would depend on the words. Like if I say like things are what they
so
are.
then what words in the past 30 seconds, right, lead you to believe, right, that what I'm saying is less infallible than yours or less justified than yours?
Most of it's not tracking to anything I've said, and you're trying to represent my position.
Most of it is
and I don't,
just not tracking to what you said. Okay.
Yeah.
So let's take a step back then. Okay. So what was your original question, right, about the assumptions that we hold?
I didn't claim they're assumptions. You're claiming they're assumptions, right? You're saying your claims are assumptions. Is that the claim?
No.
No.
Yo, don't try to backpedal, and don't try to like shift the goalpost or shift the burden. Excuse me. I'm sorry. Try not to
What's the
shift the
main
burden,
claim?
right?
What's the main thing that we're agreeing on?
What was your original statement, right, about the formal laws of logic?
So originally, I think I was saying under a binary system, like under like a traditional system, things either are or not, and that's not really contentious. I don't think that you could give me any state of affairs in which you could kind of violate that, like meaningfully and defend
that's
it.
just a law of non-contradiction.
Right. Okay. So we agree, or are you saying that that's just an unjustified claim?
We agree on the law of non-contradiction.
Is it unjustified though? Is it an axiom, or do we have justification?
So now you have a justification theory. So what do you mean by justified?
So do we have a reason to believe it's true? Can we sort of demonstrate to maybe even an infallible degree that it couldn't fail?
Not objectively, we do not.
Wait, not objective.
People have their own thesis, but objectively, there's no way to demonstrate that the formal laws of logic are necessarily true.
If you mean outside of all minds, if you mean to demonstrate things outside of all minds, I would agree.
Right, but now you're just hypothesizing, right? So you're appealing to another set of inductive premises in order to ground or explain one set of inductive premises.
Here. Like I don't talk a lot.
Right, but do you kind of see the self-referential nature of this?
Dude, if logic is universally binding on all things, we're going to have to reference it in regards to itself.
So no, hold on. So that's a pretty loaded statement. How is it that you assume that the laws of logic, right, are universally binding upon all things?
Because everything is a thing. Okay, it's fucking grammatical, bro. It's like just.
Right. So then basically what you're conceding then is that to you, according to you and your understanding of the formal laws of logic, it isn't actually bound or found. Excuse me. It's not actually founded upon some infallible, fundamental, like justified true belief, but it's just rather semantics for you.
No, that doesn't follow. It just
no. You literally said, right? Like it's just these are just like words that we use.
No, I didn't say that.
You just did.
No.
Okay, so let's take a step back again. Okay, we're going to go back to square one. All right. You're saying that the laws of logic are universally bounding How do you demonstrate that that is the case?
Yeah. So like
Because if it
everything-
wasn't true, then then we wouldn't have the laws of logic. That's not an
So I'm
argument.
saying, so the way that we're defining the word thing and identity, and the way that we're using these words, everything that you could point, anything you could point to, by definition,
Anything that one could point to, anything
Yeah.
that anyone can speak to. So I mean,
Yeah.
you're just making a semantic argument.
no, I
These are
have
just
to use
excuse
words.
me. These are
You're
just
asking
rather
me to-
semantic distinction.
Like we have to have meaning in the words we're using, and I have to use words to convey the concepts. So like if that's a critique that I'm using meaning and stuff like that, I don't think that's a fair critique.
No,
You know, because
meaning
you're-
is already presupposed in the words by which we speak.
Right. Okay, so you're using the same words. So that critique would cut you too, if that's the critique that I'm using like words with meaning and stuff.
Not necessarily. If I'm willing to concede that there is no justification, right, for how we use the laws of logics as a premise, we just take it as axiomatic that that is the case.
Ace, can I ask you a question real quick?
What you're saying,
I
what you're
think so.
claiming is that you're claiming that logic is objective in a way that there's something more axiomatic to the laws themselves,
I would never say
or
that
the
statement
things,
ever.
or the things
would
by
ne-
which they refer to, which is
I would never say that.
that's
I
the
would never
best.
say
That's the best understanding. If I'm trying to steel man your position, that's how I hear you when you say something
I would
like
ne- I would
logic
never say that.
universally binds everything in the universe.
All it means is that there's not a thing that isn't that thing. That's all it means. Is that you couldn't point to something that isn't that thing. That's
So
all it means.
again, you're referring back to the law of non-contradiction in order to justify the law of non-contradiction. I don't see an assumption, any kind of assumption about God within your justification for the law of non-contradiction.
You didn't ask me to prove God. You didn't ask me to prove that. You were just asking me what I
did
mean.
not. I did not. But what I'm saying is that that's what you appeal to when you appeal to some universally binding agency for the formal laws of logic.
Well, we didn't get there yet. We haven't got to an argument for God. We're just saying that.
Right. So then how do you avoid, right, a self-referential justification for the formal laws of logic? So how can you establish the law of non-contradiction without referring back to the law of non-contradiction?
No, I didn't say that we could defend
You did.
the laws
You
of
said
logic.
either a thing.
No.
You said, when I asked you, how is it that you assume that it is the case that the law of non-contradiction is true? And you said, because a thing is not another thing. That's what you said.
Not quite. No, not quite.
You're
I wouldn't use that
literally
terminology.
reciting back, right?
No.
P equals not P, right? So when I ask you, how is it that P is not P? And you say, P is not P.
No, I wouldn't say that. I wouldn't say anything like that.
You did. It's recorded.
That's fine. If that's how you remember it, and yeah, it's fine. That's totally
It's not
fine.
how I remember. That's literally how it's recorded.
Yeah, I mean, you can ask me to clarify if you want.
Okay, well then, how about this? Let's ask again. How is it that you find the formal laws of logic to be a justified true belief?
Yeah. So, like, I mean, we can, using circular reasoning, which isn't a formal fallacy, we can just,
Okay, so right. So now you're admitting, right, that you're using circular reasoning. So when I said earlier
you never accused me of that.
You're using a self-referential, right? You're referring back to the law of non-contradiction in order to justify the law of non-contradiction. Now you're conceding and you're agreeing that I wasn't lying to you when I said that's how I heard you, right?
I'm not denying that we would have to use logic to defend it. That's never been an issue, you know.
I mean, you just spent the last 5 minutes trying to explain that that's not what you were doing.
No,
So, but
listen,
so at the end of the day, right,
No,
you only have circular arguments, right, self-referential statements in order to try to justify the formal laws of logic, correct? That's fine if that's if that's your position, because it is valid, right?
I mean,
We're talking about the soundness of it, though.
There's limited positions, right? It's either going to be trivially justified or unjustified, right? But undubitable or indubitable. There's limited positions available there, right, Face?
I'm not sure. What's that final one, the dubitable or whatever?
Yeah, you could take like a Wittgensteinian approach where you're like, oh, these things are like unjustifiable, but they're also undoubtable, and so we're just gonna, proceed with them as conventions. Or you could say they're trivially justified, right? But if your criterion for successful justification involves you using logic, right, to determine whether or not that threshold is being approached correctly and then surpassed, and now this agent counts as justified, if that toolkit requires the laws of logic, you're not going to be able to use that toolkit to justify the laws of logic, right? You see that, right?
No, I don't agree, because either we would use logic to justify logic or we wouldn't. If we
Yes.
don't, then we're being illogical. If we don't justify it, then we don't have the justification. Either way, I think it makes more sense to use logic, to be logical and defend logic. That would be logical, I think.
So do you take circular arguments to be giving a good defense for a position?
No, but once you get to the ground of all being,
You just admitted that you
obviously,
did.
All right, so hold on.
no, not
Sorry.
quite, not circular arguments. We were just talking
Okay, I'll stop
about,
interjecting.
Look,
yeah.
on your view, when is it appropriate to use a circular argument?
So if you arrived at the ground of all being, you're going to have to use it to justify it. You cannot go outside of it. I mean, you could appeal to the set of contingencies, but then ultimately, where are they coming from? From that which is grounding it. So you would have a circle no matter what you do.
And so anybody else that uses circular reasoning, when they're referencing what they think is the ground of all being, all of their arguments go through by your lights?
No, it's like they would have to have something which is self-contained within the set, the circular justificatory network. There'd have to be something necessary, fundamental, revelatory, and non-establishing means and will to get you some information such you couldn't be wrong about, securing the entire causal nexus.
Why? Why does it need all these additional things?
Because otherwise, just because you have a circle which is
Because
coherent.
otherwise it violates the law of non-contradiction. You see? You're done.
No.
You're done.
Because, no.
When you could
have a circle, but there's no necessity for anything in the circle to be true, just because it's coherent. But the only way that you could know anything is if something exists ontologically which grounds that circle of chain of justificatory pathways in such a way that you can know things to be true.
That's fine, but what happens if a non-theist comes along? What happens if like a slimy internet debate bro naturalist comes along and makes an argument about fundamental reality, right? But they don't invoke a mind. And they say that since they're reasoning about what's absolutely fundamental, they're allowed to make circular arguments. And then they just say that they use reliable senses to intuit the reliability of those senses and arrive at justified true belief. What are you going to do now?
Yeah, well, what are they positing as fundamental to secure the entire causal nexus in that way reliably?
Yeah. A naturalistic reality, right?
What is that? What does that mean?
It's going to be reality bounded by natural laws that limit the space of possibility.
So reality being a concrete set of like disjuncted particulars,
No,
or like a unified.
It's the words I use, not those words.
Well, no, but what does it mean?
What does natural mean?
Reality.
Oh, reality refers to the aggregate of all real things.
Right, yeah, so it's a set. That's what I was saying. So it's ontologically, they're radically disjuncted.
Yeah, but sets aren't real, right? I'm not referring to like this idea, this abstract idea of a set. I'm referring to the actual objects, right?
Yeah, so
you
there's like,
that, right?
Yeah, reality is ontologically a huge plethora of radically disjuncted particulars.
Yeah, well, it's like you have objects, right? And they're ultimately going to be brute. And then you have the space of possibility that like limits how they behave. That's going to be either brute or necessary, or like have an infinite number of explanations, right? It's the same as the theist view. The only difference is it doesn't have a mind.
Yeah, is there unity among diversity?
Sure, that's a brute fact too, just like on your view.
No, I mean, so it is real, because you were saying that there's no such thing as sets, but now you're saying that there is unity among diversity. Which is it?
Wait, hold on. You can have.
You contradicted yourself.
No, of course not. No,
he actually hasn't contradicted himself.
You're equivocating. You're equivocating on what?
Can you tell me a problem with contradictions?
Now he has a problem. No, look, this idea. Look, this idea of having.
Yeah? What's the problem? What's the criterion against contradiction? Go ahead.
It's when you lie and talk rubbish and you're not making sense. That's what it means.
Well, look,
can you demonstrate why that's a problem?
Look, I told you at the beginning I was going to be a slimy internet naturalist, but like it sounds like you're totally fine with this view by your own lights, right?
Yeah, I mean, if you were being honest, it would be cool.
Well, because it sounded like earlier you said
that give me the criteria for honesty.
As long as I'm reasoning.
I'm just saying, if you're going to talk out both sides of your mouth and you contradict yourself in 5 seconds, like why would I take you seriously?
Well, how can we have access to your psychological states? That would be an answer.
It's a simple question, bro. If you're just going to answer with another question, then clearly you have no response.
I think they're just pointing out that it would be a double standard for you to just assume that people.
Is there anyone with the confidence to stand up and to speak for themselves rather than? Are you a pack of wolves or something?
Look, it sounds like you're
hanging up on you.
It sounds like you're just signing off.
Oh, poor Face. Oh, I'm really sorry, Face. Are you feeling sad? Are you feeling sad, Face? Oh, Okay,
So
we'll go one at a time. We'll take pity on you, okay?
Are we signing
Okay.
off on circular reasoning justifies a naturalistic view? Are we signing off on that face, or
No,
not?
not until you answer my question. No.
What was the question?
Yeah, well, you said it's fine that there would have to be something revelatory and honest.
No, I didn't say that.
Within no. Okay, well, okay. So then, how would you know? Just because you have a justificatory pathway which is circular, why would any of those beliefs be true?
Yeah, because I'm using my reliable senses to ascertain the reliability of the senses. It's circular,
Yeah,
but I'm reasoning about ultimate fundamental reality, just like you said it was okay to use circular reasoning to do so. So I'm
that doesn't
just
make any of
following
them
your
true.
rule book.
It doesn't make any of them true. So you're
Well,
not answering
hold on.
the question.
Wait.
You're being
We're not talking about
dishonest.
what's true. We're talking about justification.
I asked you a question. I asked you, how do you know any of them are true? And you're not answering that.
Well, that's a different question. I thought we were talking about
That's why I asked
justification.
you. Okay, that's my question. Now can you answer it?
Okay, gotcha. So just to be clear, we're changing the topic from justification to something else?
No, I'm explaining to you when you have a circular justificatory pathway, there's no necessity that any of them be true. How would you know
Cool.
any of them are true? That's my
Fantastic.
question.
Can you
Again.
demonstrate that? Can you demonstrate that?
So just to be clear, you're saying
Right.
that circular reasoning is incapable of revealing to you what's true? Is that what you're saying?
No.
Okay, gotcha. So it is true that you can have circular reasoning that gives you the truth?
There's possible ways.
It's
Yes.
one or the other.
Yes, I've already said yes.
True. Okay, cool. So you don't have a problem with circular reasoning illuminating what's true about the world. So yeah, that question was just rhetorical?
No, it depends on the circle, the nature of that particular circle. So
Gotcha. Okay.
again,
So your circle is
Okay.
virtuous, right?
Right, so hold on,
Is it
hold
a
on.
stoic
No.
circle?
No, we can go
Right.
somewhere.
This
This can be.
circle has retrograde motion, guys.
okay, what I'm going to do, I'm literally going to mute all the trolls, literally every single one of you, one by one,
Guys,
and then when
Wait,
I'm
why
done,
aren't you muted?
I brought up the
then
same
I'm
argument.
going to
I
call
brought up the
call
same
out
argument. Remember
the only one that's
unicorn?
wearing a dress, and then we're going to have a conversation. Okay, that's what we're going to do. Okay.
Yeah, that's all right. I can talk to Josie. That's
All right, so
fine.
just to be clear, it sounded like you were drawing distinctions between different circles. Can we just get the criteria upon which one kind of circular reasoning's quote unquote circle is appropriate?
Yeah, I
What are
already
your-
gave it to you. I already gave you the symmetry
Yeah,
breaker
Can
several
you give it
times.
again? Can you give it again?
So, okay, for the fourth time, okay, Josie, there's no necessity for anything in a chain, a circle of justifications for any of those to be true, unless there is something ontologically existing, which it although it would justify itself, it would also justify the entire causal network if it is revelatory and honest and had a means and a will to make sure that you could know something infallibly and emphatically. Then, even though you would have a circle of justification, which would obviously be circular reasoning, you would still know those things to be necessarily true. Now, if you're going to deny that fact, can you give me an alternative, please?
Cool. So here's what I understand that to be saying. I understand it to be saying that the only time that like a circular justification is going to be appropriate is if all of the truth values of the propositions in that context are necessitated.
No. Just that there's one thing. Okay, so one of the things that we're going to appeal to, that thing would be self-justifying, ultimate, absolute, unconditionally, non-dependent, non-contingent, and non-derivative, and it would secure the entire causal nexus, including the entire chain of justifications. And it would be, it would be the ground of all being. And as long as the ground of all being as long as it can allow for you to know something to be true, then you would know something to be true, and your justifications would map to those states of affairs in which you're invoking. Okay?
Gotcha. And the word secure in there, what do you take that to mean?
Bro, I've told you about 10 times, okay? To secure just means to establish and maintain. It's the same as the last time I told you. It's the same as every other time I've told you.
Okay, so when you're securing something, is this like securing relationship? Is it necessary or is it contingent?
It could be either.
It could be either. Okay, cool. So in my system,
violates.
system, right, my naturalistic reality secures the truth value of all propositions, either contingently or necessarily. Since you were agnostic about it on your view, I'm going to be agnostic about it on my view. And I have this circular justification. It passes all the tests that you've given to me so far. What's the next objection?
So what is it? What is fundamental that's securing the entire causal nexus in such a way that you can know things to be true infallibly and emphatically? What is doing that?
The same thing that yours is doing. I've passed all 3 of the tests you've given me so far. Do you have any other brainbusters?
So you're granting there must be an eternal revelatory mind which is granting justified true beliefs then.
I haven't granted there's a mind yet, but I've granted that there's something that's either necessarily or contingently securing the truth value of propositions. I'll grant you that.
Is it revelatory?
By revelatory, do you just mean I can get knowledge from it?
Like, does it reveal justified true beliefs emphatically and infallibly?
Well, I asked you what reveal means, and then you said, "Does it reveal?" So I'm still unclear.
So revelatory means when it grants justified true beliefs. From that which is ultimate to that which is non-ultimate.
And justified true belief is knowledge. So when I asked earlier, does revelatory just mean I can get knowledge from it? The answer to that question would have been yes.
Yes, but we fleshed it out just to make it very clear that the knowledge is going from subject A to subject B.
Well, it's going from something to something, right? That's what you mean.
Well, there's 2 subjects involved. There's the one with the knowledge.
Okay, I don't grant that.
And it's okay. So where's the knowledge coming from?
In this case, it's coming from fundamental reality to epistemic agents.
Well, okay. So it is coming from that which is fundamental then.
Yeah. Well, yeah. We already established this. Like we did this 3 times.
Okay. That which is fundamental has knowledge.
That which is fundamental, right, is going to contain the conditions by which epistemic agents can have knowledge. Yeah, of course.
Does it have knowledge or not?
Sometimes they do, sometimes they don't, right?
Does that which is fundamental have knowledge or not on your model?
It contains within it the parameters by which epistemic agents can know things.
Yeah,
Is that
it
a yes
reveals
or a no?
itself as knowable.
It doesn't know things in the same way that agents with minds do, right?
Does it know things in any way? Does it have any way of knowing anything?
the properties of water?
Look, so like the epistemic agents are the ones that are going to be knowing things on this view, right? The contents of the knowledge, right, are not going to know things. That would be silly.
Is this a yes or a no?
It's the answer that I gave you. I fleshed it out just like you did with your answer earlier.
Does that which is ultimate have knowledge or not?
Obviously not, for the 3rd time.
Okay, so that's a no. Okay, so then how is it imparting knowledge?
Because it contains within it all the conditions by which an epistemic agent can gain knowledge.
What? Based on what?
What do you mean based on what? It's either necessary or contingent, just like you said earlier. When you say based, do you mean like how is it grounded?
Is this an inductive claim that you're making?
Which claim?
The claim that you just made.
No, it's a circularly justified claim. The reliability of my senses allows me to ascertain I have reliable senses and allows me to make claims about reality, just like on your view. It's circular.
Right, and you know this in virtue of ultimately what?
Of my circular justification that passed all the tests that you've given me so far.
No, I'm asking ontologically, what is the ultimate fundamental ontologically which is grounding that nexus?
Right, I already told you.
That's a non sequitur.
It's first of all, I'll answer the question, even though it's irrelevant, because ontology and epistemology are 2 different fields in philosophy. But also, it's naturalistic reality. I've said that 3 times.
Okay, which is what again?
The aggregate of all real things, right? The laws that limit the space of possibility, right? All the objects, most of which are going to be either brute, like an ensemble of brute contingencies, or they're all going to be necessary, just like the theistic view.
So how do objects secure knowledge to you?
When you say secure, do you mean just how do they explain epistemic agents knowing things?
How is it that there's objects and then therefore I have justified true beliefs because objects? What's the difference?
Yeah, because what it means to know things on this view is that you have an epistemic agent with beliefs. There's going to be a criteria upon which their beliefs pass a threshold that's constitutive of justification, and there's going to be an underlying true state of affairs. JTB. What's the next brainbuster?
I'm sorry, so you're, dude, man, is there something which is allowing for that nexus?
By allowing, do you mean are the laws that limit the space of possibility arranged in such a way that people can know things? Yes.
No. Is there something fundamental which is going to account for the entire set?
By account, do you mean explain? Yes.
And which is?
Naturalistic reality. Asked and answered. What's the next?
But you're including everything in reality. Is that?
The aggregate of all real things is the aggregate of all real things. That's correct.
Right, but I'm asking you what is ultimate, and you're saying the thing that is ultimate is everything.
By ultimate, do you just mean there's nothing greater than it? Yes, nothing is greater than the aggregate of all real things.
Dude, are the things equal to each other?
Which things?
The aggregate of all real things.
Is a red ball identical to a red ball? Like that object is identical to itself. Is it like the same as the bread ball next to it? No, there's subtle differences. One's like spatially
Are you
extended
saying
over-
ultimacy? Are you saying that more quantity equals more ultimate? Is that
No,
that's what
I
you're no?
take ultimate to mean there's like nothing greater than it, and that's like completely outside of any other like relational aspects, right? And yes, the aggregate of all real things is going to be outside of these like relational concerns, and there isn't going to be anything greater than it. That's what ultimate means. It's like your ultimate in League of Legends. It's your best skill, bro.
Could there have been a time when there was no physical things?
Could there have been a time when there's no physical things? I don't know. That depends on like what you think time is, right? Maybe physical things are required for time to exist. Maybe it's the other way around. Who cares?
Could there have been a timeless state, where there was no physical things?
I don't know.
I'm not asking if you know. I'm just asking you if you think it's possible.
I don't think there's a contradiction in that, but I'd have to see the rest of the view.
Right, but then on your model, then you're saying that which is ultimate could fail. That's your claim.
What? How'd you derive that?
Because if that which is ultimate is the aggregate of all real things, and you're saying there could be a state where there are no physical things, then you're saying that the full causal thing, which is the ultimate thing, didn't even have to exist on your own model.
If you have the aggregate of all real things and you take away some number of real things, right, you could still have other real things. If time is just one of the things in that aggregate, right, just taking away just time isn't going to like destroy the entire aggregate, right?
What is real apart from...
Actually, it could be the case that like time is one of like the necessary constants that has to obtain, right? That could be the case. Like I'm agnostic on that view, right? Nothing turns on that. Maybe you're right. Maybe ultimate reality does collapse if there's not time present. Who knows? Who cares?
What is real? What is real apart from physical things?
Physical forces, right? Like the four fundamental forces. Maybe those are like brutally contingent or necessary, right?
Can't we just include that within physical things? Or if you want, like, what is real apart from...
Well, because like my chair and like the strong nuclear force seem like they're kind of different from each other. So I think I just use the two categories that most people use when they talk about them.
Right, but you can have one without the other. So if we just include that in physicality, then like
This is all deflection right now. Real quick, just if I may just reframe.
What is real apart from physicality?
And then I'll let you guys continue to hash it out. Frame, when you're referring to time, are you referring to time as a property or time as a thing?
If anything.
Or face. When you were referring to time earlier with
he has you locally muted, Abysmo. I think he has you locally muted.
Yeah, no, he's serving me. He's serving me because I muted all the trolls because I had like 5 people all talking over me.
I know, but I think you muted them just on your account, not the actual atheist helpline thing. And so he's speaking right now, right?
Just ask him what he meant by time, because he tried to throw you down this.
I don't. Point. Generally speaking, I don't like talking about time because I don't think anyone knows.
He's equivocating on time at this point. Because he asked you as a speculative question, so he's just trying to like throw you off.
I know. I just don't even think it's worth speaking about time because like it just every time the conversation switches into time, somewhat ironically, it just like goes down the toilet, right? Like who cares?
Yeah, because you either have to because it's either a property or it's ontological.
Like if I say that if I say time is like the rotation of a cesium atom, is that really going to help this conversation about justification?
No, it isn't, because we're talking about time in the context of material science, and we're going to assume that it's a property rather than an ontology.
We're talking about material science, like polymers.
It's a non sequitur of the philosophical conversation about time. He's purposely equivocating.
Dude, I love polymers.
Are you a physicalist?
I think polymers are ultimate, to be honest.
Physical, I guess.
What are the 3 material sciences? Like polymers, synthetics, and metals? I forget.
Josie, so is this actually your position, Josie, or are you just LARPing right now?
Which one is like the strongest material? Is it polymer?
What you've been saying this whole time?
It's polymers, ceramics, and metals. Ceramics is the other one. So you know what's funny? Most of the like Christ believers in this chat probably don't even know what material science is. They're probably like, I work at my gas station. I do the dishes. That's what I do.
Stop with the straw manning.
So can we
they probably work with straw men in the fields. They probably till the fields.
First up, as a physicalist, how do you solve the hard problem?
Can we settle on one material then?
The hard.
Can we talk about one material at a time? Thank you.
Ree, can you stop like?
I don't think a hard problem. I don't know if the hard problems in philosophy have like closed answers on them right now. Isn't that why they're called hard problems?
Yeah, what I'm trying to say is that it's not solvable by physicalism. I think you need to consider something else.
I have this like wonderful
don't
skill
think
at
it's- I don't
taking
think it's
non-science
solvable.
convos and making them science convos.
I don't think it's
wonderful.
solvable on any view, is it? Do you think that like there's views that have solved the hard problem of consciousness?
Idealism, yeah.
Okay, cool.
Well, it seems like the convo's over. That's kind of sad.
Well, I don't know where face went.
I think Jesus solves all the problems.
Look, I mean, I can create a system where I just like bake into my paradigm the solutions to all the hard problems too, and then I can just unify them all spuriously by increasing the size of my thesis at the same rate that the data set increases. That's fine.
So what do you think of Jesus?
Wait, what do you call a material that's made of both a polymer and a ceramic? What's that called?
Devi, can you stop like derailing the conversation, please?
Well, I think the conversation.
You said we're talking about material science. It's highly relevant.
I mean, for all intents and purposes, yeah.
I don't know where. I think face is just done.
It's called a composite.
He's done.
He's done.
He's done.
I mean, unfortunately, that's where Precept always goes, right? He just ran out of questions to ask.
Can we talk about the real things?
Hey, can we talk about the real things like consciousness?
Can I share what Darth Dawkins, his response to that question or that appeal to reality in aggregate as an answer to what that guy?
Why would you ever want to share something?
Why would you ever want to?
Why would we ever want to talk about Darth Dawkins? That dude's stupid.
I'm just sharing his objection because I want to hear what your answer is.
You're just like spreading his like popularity.
No, I'm not a fucking
colonizer. You're like a pollinator.
I know
pollinating our minds with a Darth Dawkins.
I know what Darth's response is, right? He's gonna try to say it's like some kind of reification fallacy, but who cares? No one cares about that.
Yeah. What he would say is that you're appealing to a set, like an abstraction. And
that's why I said it wasn't a set. Yeah, that's why I repeatedly denied Face's painting it as like something to do with set theory. Also, just to be clear, Darth doesn't know anything about set theory either. Ask him like 5 basic questions about set theory and see what he says. He'll just emiute you.
If you knew how angry he would get, if you knew how angry he would get, though, dude. He goes, I'm not talking about set theory, and you go, but you said set. And he's like, I mean a collection of particulars.
Yeah, right?
You fucking moron.
He instantly changes the words that he uses, right? I might as well just ask my dog what he means by the aggregate of all real things.
He defines it.
He'll go woof woof and then bite me, which is
he
like
means
more engagement than death.
He just means like a collection of like 2 or more things. He just, I think it's basically something like that,
Yeah, look, I get it because like if the reification fallacy is correct, right, or like misplaced concreteness, it is going to be the case that some abstract notion of what reality is constitutive of isn't going to be able to like do the kinds of things that I'm talking about. That objection does go through, right? But I don't think that there's some abstract set out there that's imposing like something in reality that my mind reaches out to, and that's what's giving me knowledge. No, I think that when I look at a tree, it's the actual tree over there that my mind is reaching out to. I don't think it's some part of a set, right?
You're begging the question, though, because the way you know the tree, you're claiming...
No,
you're saying,
to assume that the set is justifiable is the fucking...
Right, and there's going to be an incomplete list
you're saying, I know there's a tree because I look at the tree. You're just saying the tree is a justification for the tree. So you're saying it's the truth, it's the ground of the belief, and it's the justification, is what you're saying.
No, I'm using the same. So we established how we're going to justify
you don't know
things
what you're talking about.
with circles, right? So
you
the way it
don't know
works
what you're
is
talking about.
I have these senses. They're reliable. I arrive at the reliability of my senses using those reliable senses, and it's about fundamental reality. We agreed that it's okay to use circular reasoning with regard to that. And so I look out and I see the tree. My reliable senses feed me data about the tree, right? And now I have beliefs about the tree, and they've passed the threshold for justification that we established, and there's a true state of affairs, such that in all cases of a tree being in my yard, there's a tree in my yard, right? So we have J, T, and B right here.
Yeah, how do you know that that the experience that you're having is mapping to any real state of affairs?
Yeah, because I use my reliable senses, the reliability of which I use my senses to discern, right? To go out into the world and see all these great things, right? Just in the same way that your God does. Because I use my senses to determine their reliability. It's a circle, remember? It's circular. No, it's okay. No. It's okay to beg the question here. We're talking about fundamental reality, remember? You signed off on this. We shook hands. You looked me in the eye. We shook hands. Were you crossing your fingers the whole time?
No. What did I say to you? Tell me how I 4 times explained to you the only way to do it.
You said that the only way for circular reasoning ever to be appropriate, right, is if the reasoning is with reference to what's fundamental.
Right,
That's
but
what you
that
said.
fundamental is revelatory and honest, having the means of will to keep some information such that you couldn't be wrong about securing the entire causal network, including all justifiable.
That's begging the question.
That's what we're debating right now. We're talking about whether it needs all those additional things.
If you deny that, then you could never. Then you can't know anything to be true.
No, hold on.
It's impossible to know anything to be true if you deny that. So, like, give me an alternative where you could know anything to be true by denying what I'm saying.
I gave you an alternative. You're just saying nuh-uh isn't an argument.
Bro, I'm asking you to defend your claim.
Look,
I've just defended mine.
I did.
Okay, last chance. Last chance.
I did. You gave me like
Give me the
6
argument.
different criterion, and I
Five,
adequately addressed all of them.
3, 2. What, you going to give me the argument?
Are you going to mute me?
Okay. Well done. Well done, bro.
Face of Yossi. How do you
Get wrecked,
count,
Josie.
the argument from chat?